All right, everyone, it's Dave Mormon here, home service business coach. We're honored today with a special guest, Mr. Tommy Mello. Welcome to the show, my man.
Pleasure to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, man, I got to say hi to you very briefly in August at the huge convention there in Nashville. You were one of the keynote speakers, which was awesome, and got you teed up here for the podcast. So you got a bunch of listeners here, Tommy, with home service businesses, a lot of companies under $1 million. So I've got a few questions, man. I'd love to just kind of deep dive into your mindset to try and drop some value on the listeners. But before we do, man, I think a lot of people know who you are. Tommy Mello, you're owner at A1 Garage Door. Do you mind just telling us a little bit of your backstory and how you got even started in the home service space?
Yeah, so I'm originally from a suburb of Detroit, Michigan. And when you're a kid growing up in Detroit, you learn to shovel snow and mow lawns if you want extra money. So that was my first start as Ellie and Tommy's Landscaping, E&T is what it was. And then I moved out to Phoenix, started a small landscaping company, was bartending. And one of my roommates said, "Do you know how to paint garage doors?" And I'm like, not really, but how much does it pay? And he goes, "I can get you $100 a door. You pay for the paint and the tape and whatnot." So I got to the point where I was painting 10 doors a day on the weekend. And I kept meeting up with technicians. One day, me and my roommate decided we were going to start a garage door business. Didn't have a clue. I mean, sweat equity. I ran all the calls. I was answering the phones. We didn't have inventory systems. One old truck we'd share. And I learned a lot. I fell down forward a lot of times. I had my mom and stepdad working for me in 2010, and it didn't come easy. Everybody's like, "Man, I want what Tommy has." Well, there's sacrifice, there's relationships. There's a lot of things that you got to learn the hard way. I think if anybody was given a lot of money to go start a business, they'd lose it all. When you're small, you make smaller mistakes, not with as much money. And I've kind of got like tunnel vision on how to make a successful business. And a lot of times it's the owner and founder getting in the way. They're not prioritizing the bigger things. They're pushing pennies. We did we call it the Tommy Tuesday talk with all my Garage Door Freedom members. We're talking about inventory. Some people buy enough inventory for 6 months because they get a good deal on it. They're holding their vendors. They're trying to get cheaper prices, longer payment terms. I want my vendors to help me get in and out of there quickly and be consistent and make sure my bills are accurate, and I wanted to be healthy. And it took years and years to figure this out, but started A1 Garage Doors in 2007. Did about 200 million last year. This year, the goal is hiring and top grading 8 players, improving my gross close rate, which is service to sales, and a lot of acquisitions. If I could do those few things, we're redoing a lot of the technology that'll morph into a multi-billion-dollar company. Right now, we're valued at probably say just under $1 billion.
Wow. Seriously, man, amazing. And I'm sure you have a ton of people looking up to you in the space, man. I kind of think you're like a beacon of hope in the space, man, because you've like cracked the code. You figured this out. I guess my first question for you, Tommy, were you born with this like huge mindset of always thinking bigger and next and bigger and next? Or do you think that was like developed along the way as you grew this thing?
I'm kind of driven and passionate. Like whatever I was going to do, I was going to do it really good. But I had no idea. People always ask, "Did you ever think you could grow this big?" And I'm like, I think I was destined to be a billionaire. And it might sound cocky, but I didn't have a lot of money growing up. My mom worked 3 jobs. My dad was still there and helping me out, loved me. And they always say you can do anything you want. But I'm a math guy, and everything's just an equation. If you want to get to $1 billion of revenue, I think I originally put, $1 billion of revenue. I need 2,000 technicians at $500,000 a piece.
Yeah.
And I've done the math every which way. That's 100 million, but I've done the math to just reverse engineer what needs to happen today. A lot of people have a goal. They say, "Here's what I want to do this year." Well, what do you need to do this quarter, this month, this week, and today? What's the most important thing you can do to impact your business? And a lot of people don't know how to prioritize that. I would just say, like, I like to grow things. I'm not happy sitting there going, we're just going to have a flat year this year. It's like my mind goes into, what do we need? We need leads. We need conversion rate. We need to book the phone calls. And we need conversion to be high. And so how do I continue to grow these core principles? A lot of people are working on all kinds of stuff that doesn't even move the needle. And I'm like, you don't even know your call booking rate. You don't know what it costs you to acquire a customer. You have no idea what your technician conversion rate is per tech. And you're worried about this? Like, you got no good candidates. Look at your Indeed and Glassdoor score. You got no influx of great talent. And they're all worried, do I get rebranded? Do I do this? Do I do this? And I'm like, life, it's not easy, but to get over $1 million, I did that my second year.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just think in a totally different playing field, and you keep wanting, like, even if you hit 500 million, you hit $1 billion, you're always thinking next and scale. And I feel like on kind of that rocket fuel test of visionary integrator, you're probably like a maximum to the moon visionary. Is that correct to say?
Very, very, very high visionary. I was like very little integrator. I've had to learn to integrate things, but I'm not great at it.
Okay. So tell me this, man. You had a quote on your podcast, which is amazing. Everyone should check out, guys. It's the Home Service Expert with Tommy Mello. You said a quote. You said, there may be someone in the world that could outwork you, but no one will ever out-delegate you. And I wrote, it was a writer downer for me, man. Can you talk to the little guy? You just mentioned it. They're doing all these different things in their business. How did delegation serve you in scaling this thing, man, significantly? I'm really curious to hear your take on this.
Well, it's kind of like revenues for vanity, profits for sanity. Some people brag that they work 14-hour days, 80-hour weeks. And it's like, I outwork you. I mean, I hear these guys, these mentors, these influencers out there saying, I'll outwork everybody. And it's not, billionaires don't outwork people. They know who to call when, and they see the success leaves clues. If I want to dominate Angie, I'm going to go to the number one person on Angie in all the markets. Find them. Angie, success leaves clues. You want to see how the algorithm works on Google? Search for HVAC repair in my area. The number one guy. Go ask them a question. So when I say delegate, literally there's responsibilities in delegation. It's not dumping. And it's literally, what are we trying to do? Why are we trying to do it? When does it need to get done by? Who's responsible? What resources do you have? And there's a proper way to delegate and hold people accountable. Put it on a Monday board or a Trello board. And Al Levy taught me a lot of this stuff, and the 7-Power Contractor, he's amazing. But I think that I don't want to do anything that I could get done for less than I make per hour. There's a great book by Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time. I don't need to do my own landscaping. I enjoy walking the dogs, but I don't walk them every night. We got a dog walker. Where is my time best served? And it's through leadership, vision, having the vision, and making sure everybody knows, like telling everybody, creating a culture. And so if I could hire somebody to do something for less than I make per hour, most of the time I'm not going to do it. But I can't have my executive assistant wish somebody a happy birthday from me. You got to take the time to do that kind of stuff. So there's certain things. First thing I ask is, does this need to be done by me, or can it be delegated? And if so, who's going to delegate and get it done on the timeline? What resources? So if I told you, I said, David, I'm going to give you 100 people and $2 million to get this done. You say, yeah, no problem. I can get it done. So for me, the question is never, no, I can't do that. It's what resources do you need to get it done?
Yeah, amazing. And was that like a learned skill, man? Like, go back to the day when you're painting 10 garage doors on a Saturday, like you were the guy doing the thing. I think a lot of listeners on this show might say, oh, easy for Tommy to say he's got a huge business. Of course he can press a button and call someone, but that doesn't also happen overnight. So like, what, if you can remember back to the days, were there ever days that Tommy wasn't a skilled delegator, and where'd you find like the money to actually do that?
Well, it's all sweat equity. It didn't start with a lot of money, and the money starts to compound when it's reinvested into the company. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they say, oh, my buddy's flipping real estate, made $1 million this year. I should do that. My other buddy opened a bar. That sounds fun. And they start divesting out of the one thing that got them everything instead of reinvesting it. They literally say that whether they become a gambler or invest in real estate, focus on the core thing. There's a great book by Gary Keller called The One Thing. Focus on this picture your business as a 5-gallon bucket. Most of the people at $1 million don't even have a thousandth of it full. Until that overflows, because at that point you got the resources to do other things. You could hire leadership and build other companies. But I think that back in the day, my hourly rate was probably $25. So I had to do a lot of the work. That's where that test comes in. What do you make per hour? What are you averaging per week in salary divided by a 40 or 50 hour work week? If you're still the guy making $25, $30 an hour, you're still doing a lot of the work. So in that case, I say build an org chart of every single thing you're doing. And the thing that annoys you the most, payroll and HR. Circle that one and hire that person for that so you don't hate coming in on Mondays. Find the ones you can't stand and keep the ones you enjoy doing while the business is growing.
Yeah.
Because there's certain ones that just drive you crazy. You're like, I hate this. If someone would just take this, I hate inventory. Someone take this off my plate. Then hire that so you enjoy Mondays again.
Yeah. And find where your zone of genius is. I think Dan Sullivan calls it that, which is the one thing you really enjoy.
2X.
Yeah. So what would you say, Tommy, in current A1 is your zone of genius right now? And I know you've touched on this in some of your talks, but I think the listeners want to know, if Tommy strips away everything, what's like the one or two huge value adds to the business at this point?
I'm a marketer and motivator. I help push people to their limits and take their dreams if they want to make 80,000 and tell them write down 200,000, reverse engineer it. I think I motivate the team really well and kind of disconnect the silos, keep us communicating, and keep that North Star in the right position to understand where we're all running towards. And then I love marketing. I mean, I'm not probably as great as the VP of marketing on our team, but I'm very, very in touch with marketing. And marketing does not mean just getting leads for clients. It doesn't mean just broken garage doors. It means where's the flow of good applicants coming in? Because if you can get really good canvases, good people, and teach them garage doors, they have great eye contact, good tonality, tell a great story, smiling, then you're going to win.
Yeah, amazing. I want to hear your view, man. I didn't prep you on this question or really any of these, but tough economy out there, rising interest rates, people are bootstrapping their business. What's your view on a home service business owner taking on, let's say, a $50,000 or $100,000 of debt line of credit to get to 1 million, 2 million, 5 million? Necessary today, or would you say forget that and get your first truck cash flowing? What would be your view on debt to take this thing to the next level?
Well, I'm not a big fan of debt in the early stages because you tend to lose it. You tend to not, you got a bigger chunk of money, so the mistakes are bigger. I think going into this economy, you need to be right sized. A lot of people say, I want to do what you did. They start building a training center. They start ordering 10 trucks. They pay, and I do agree you should pay to get a rebrand because rebrands cause people to come work for you. The customer pays more money. Your cost on Google goes down, but you can't use every penny you've got on this one thing. So a lot of people are trying to get there in 5 years, what took me 20 years. And now I could get there in 3 years with the right amount of money and the knowledge I have of all the mistakes. Because I say figuratively that I got a lot of bruises and scars from the mistakes I've made that I won't make again because I remember when I made it. And I'm like, no, we can't do that. So they say experience trumps all. And what I would tell you from my point of view is what we're working on right now is just making sure that the lead flow continues to go up. Whereas everybody that didn't make budget last year was because they're blaming it on their marketing company. They're like, we didn't get enough leads. Of course you didn't get enough leads. It's not COVID. It's not the demand's not. There was 10 years of demand in 2 years. And you think it's all going to be rainbows and sunshine every day? This is what makes a great business. Who could make it through this stuff and who could excel in the bad times? There's always an opportunity. When a stock goes up, a lot of people make money. When a stock goes down, somebody shorted that stock, they made a lot of money. Buyer's economy, seller's economy, I can pick up. If it turns into a huge buyer's economy, I can buy companies for the cheap, right? On a deal. So I think that some businesses right now, they give up marketing first because they're loyal to their people, but it's not fair to be loyal to two people that aren't good performers and watch the whole company go under because you had a relationship. I don't believe in tenure. I believe in meritocracy, meaning you got the merit, you did the best, you're going to get the best jobs. You're the best CSR. You came in 2 months ago. This person's been here 10 years. This person's doing way better. They're going to answer the first call. It's going to be on a round robin that's weighted for them. And I think a lot of people, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. You've mentioned, man, you've got almost all your roles now on some element of performance pay at A1. Is that correct too?
Yeah, for the most part. You can't have every single person, but all my C-suite is focused on EBITDA. A lot of the VPs are EBITDA and gross profit. Certain ones in the company, like technicians, are performance pay. CSRs are performance pay. Dispatchers are performance pay.
Okay. Super cool. With the marketing though, man, like, do you have a rough KPI just for the listeners taking notes that, let's say we got $1 million business, and if you look back in the day when you were there, are we throwing 5%, 15, 20% of top line back into And I know it's hard to paint with a broad brush, but just generally for a growth-minded entrepreneur, do you have a marketing percent of revenue you're like, this would be a good number to look at?
Well, there's a couple of things there. I've always said 10% is the right number to spend, 10% of revenue, but also you need to be at 10% profit. If you drop below 10% profit, we've got some issues. And usually I find most of the issues in the call center. They're not booking all the calls. It's out of the service area. Why am I getting a marketing call out of my service area? Well, there's a Val Pack that we're offering in an area that we don't even service that area. So you got to have complete transparency, make sure your CSRs are honest to find out what the problems are. Why am I getting all these calls in out of area? Why am I getting all these parts calls? Well, there's a Google campaign for parts, and you can't identify the problems if there's no transparency. So I'd say 10%. I'd say if I was going to greenfield in a new market, I'd go all the way up to 25%. But I would forego profit to take market share. And there are times where you can do that, but you got to have a pretty big company. When you're planning on taking a draw and a payout of a business, you should be at 10% on top of that, because you don't have the money to greenfield. It's expensive. I'm glad I didn't have anything when I started, because I would have lost it all. Now you throw me a bunch of money. I know strategically how to deploy that money based on certain KPIs.
Just to define for greenfielding for the listeners, you're saying you're taking, say, a manager at A1 and you're dropping them in a new territory and you're going to forego profitability for a year, 2 years, 3 years just to take market share. Is that what you mean with that?
Yeah, it's organic growth. And there's one of two ways to grow. You buy a company, and that costs a lot of money, or you put it into marketing dollars to take market share. They both work. Greenfield has its advantages, but buy and build is a great advantage too. The hardest part about buying a bunch of businesses is, unlike what you'll hear a lot of people say, you don't buy good businesses and leave them and just give them the resources. You need to completely integrate those businesses. You need to have one VP of marketing. You need to have one CFO. A lot of these small companies, these PE companies go out, they try to buy all these companies, leave them intact. They're like, well, who does your insurance? Well, we got 7 different insurance companies. Well, where do you get your trucks from? Well, we got 3 different vendors for that. Well, who's your call center? We got 8 call centers. There's no economies of scale. No one wants to buy that sloppy mess. You've got to incorporate it all in one structure.
I'm curious, man, from a high-level strategy, we see franchising a lot in home services. Was there like a key reason or two that you chose to like not franchise out your business and have all these owner-operators across the country? I'm just curious your take on that, because we see that a lot in the home service space.
Well, a lot of people that are lazy, they can't make it in the real world, they say I'm going to franchise because I got a good idea and I don't have the money to expand. So it'd be easy because, wait a minute, if I sell each franchise for $30,000 and take 7%, I don't need a lot of money, but they don't know, they don't have any SOPs, standard operating procedures, checklists, the right CRM, a national website, national call center, a plug and play model for a turnkey operation. So I think most franchises, not all franchises, are built in a way that's like, pay me for my decent idea, you build the business and I'll take a percentage. And it's lazy. That's why a lot of franchises don't work. Now, when I franchise today, absolutely, but not with A1. But if I wanted to start a model, but I'd be very, very specific on who I had to buy that franchise. I'm the franchisor, the franchisees. I'd probably allow 1 out of 100. They'd have to be well-financed. They'd have to go through my training program. They'd have to go work in a market that's existing. And everybody's like, oh, I'm just going to franchise. And I'm like, yeah, you must have a great business in 3 markets that's making 20% at the bare minimum. No, but I got a good idea that nobody else has. And I'm like, you go look at their business. They have no inventory systems. They have no manuals. They have no processes in place, but they've got a good idea. And of course, when you're young, eager, entrepreneurship takes over, you're like, this is the quickest, easiest way for me to scale because they don't have any money. And it sounds great until you let down all those franchisees. And they're like, I need more help. But I don't have the experience. I don't have a way to help.
Yeah. So you never really entertained the franchise option too much in growing this thing?
Not an A1, but if I was going to franchise again, I'd go make it work in 5 markets, corporate owned. And I'd say, we've got a model that works in not only my city I live in, but cities across the United States. We made it work in different weather. We made it work in, Southern is different than Northern, just some of the traits. Yep. So I'd say I made it work everywhere. And this is a model I know that if you hit this, and I'd handhold the first 5, make sure they're successful, and continue to build it out so that it's more and more worked out to where the right person coming in can get to multi-millions under 3 years.
Wow. Amazing. I want to hear, man, you've touched on this a lot in your podcast, and I think it's something you're kind of coined for in the industry, and that comes around owner-operators pricing their projects too cheap. You said if we throw 10% in marketing and 10% net profit, we haven't even touched on the owner taking a salary. A lot of times, Tommy, as you know, that's not the reality for most home service businesses. So I'd love to hear you riff on for a little bit your answer to my question, which is how do we fix the underbidding pricing problem in the trades? You see it in garage doors, you see it in landscape painting. The service doesn't matter. It's just we're pricing jobs too cheap. So I'd love to hear your take on this.
Most business owners aren't really business owners. They bought themselves a full-time job that lasts 24/7. They don't get weekends or holidays off. They started a business to have more free time, but that's the last thing they've got. A lot of people are better off going to work for a really good, sophisticated company because they say, I can't charge those prices, but yet they pay their guys like crap. There's no incentive to work for you. There's no insurance. There's no PTO. There's nothing good. You drive used trucks. So here's what happens. You say, I give a good deal to my customers so I can screw over my employees. And if you told them to charge more, they'd say, I can't. My customers will never go for that because most people, when they start a business, they were a technician. And here's what they say. They go call around to the top 10 competitors and say, I'm going to charge a little bit less and give a little bit more. And even though they don't know, the people they're copying are dead broke. They pay themselves $100,000 a year. They're barely making payroll. So they're copying they're copying the competitors that aren't profitable. And that's a road to get to the bottom. So you've got to say, wait a minute, why would people pay more for you? Well, we give a better value. We've got options. We have finance options. Our parts are trademarked. They're higher cycle life. We can show them the difference. Our people go in there, they create an experience versus we're not just showing our butt crack hanging out there with a non-uniform. Well, they're saying, hey, we'll fix the problem. No, I don't sell people what they need. I sell them what they want. They want nice things. This is an investment into their home. So if you're going to just be the cheapest in the market, you're a commodity and you don't deserve a place in the marketplace. The marketplace will see to it that you don't stay in business for a very long time.
Yeah. And Tommy, why do you think it is that these business owners tell themselves the story? Because it is all a mindset that in my market, Tommy, the customers aren't gonna pay that high price you're talking about. Why do you think that's the case?
Well, most of the time they weren't a very good technician in the first place. They were never really great at sales. And they only see the cost of the parts. They don't know how much you paid the CSR and insurance and truck and gas and to keep the lights on. So they go, wait a minute, if they paid $100 for the part and they sold it for $500, they made $400 profit. I can make a killing with this. But they never really knew the math that went into keeping the lights on and the dispatch pay and the service tied pay and the phone bill and all the other costs, workers' comp, and it goes on and on, the lawyers for the LLC and the C Corp or whatever it might be. So they're just naive. And then they go around in the first year, they don't pay proper taxes. They do a lot of the work themselves. They're like, man, I had a good year. I made $140,000. Well, by the time you pay the taxes correctly, and by the time you really invest into the business to get the right stuff, you didn't really make a lot of money. And it just gets addicting because you're too prideful to say, I've already told my mom, my wife, everybody that I'm going to do this. And even when it's not looking good, you don't want to give up because you got too much pride involved. So a lot of times what I look at is they say, yeah, I'm not getting the clients you're getting. And I go, well, let me look at your marketing. You're doing something on OfferUp and Craigslist. You're doing door-to-door sales. Of course, those clients are going to pay as much as the demand call from Google saying my shit's broken. You guys were the first with the best reputation. Whatever it costs, just come fix it. My clients are the best clients because they go to the first one with the best reputation that they recognize, that they see it in their neighborhood. And they say, you guys are everywhere. We want a big company that's going to be around they don't want a big 800 number company, but they want somebody that's going to show up, that's going to be part of the community, that's going to fix it right. And if something doesn't go right, they're going to be back there tomorrow to fix it, or back there next year or 5 years. Yeah. They want peace of mind because all of us have got the cheaper price, and it's not worked out. I bought a cheaper roof. It went bad in 2 years. I thought I was a hustler, getting the best deals, getting guys that barely spoke English to do it. And then boom, there it leaked and I had to redo everything. And so homeowners are pretty smart. They know you get what you pay for most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think, Tommy, if guys and gals figured out the pricing problem and let's just say all your competitors in the garage space that are these owner operators, let's say they 2 or 3 or 4x their prices where they need to be, would that matter to your business that you're running in any way? Or do you even look at what other competitors are doing at this point?
No, I don't think that would help me at all. I mean, I think we have the A1 effect of when we go into a market, everybody's able to raise their prices. Mm-hmm. I've had a lot of competitors say, thank you for coming into my market. I was worried that you were going to take all the business. But what I've learned is there's more than enough to go around. Just because I'm winning doesn't mean you have to lose. Mm-hmm. So I think pricing is, you got to add up all your bills, pay everybody very generously. The way you come up with your pricing model is don't look around at anybody else. Figure out what it costs you to fulfill a job and then add a good margin, 15, 20%. And that shapes your pricing. A lot of people, you cannot take A1's pricing compared to a small company with 5 employees. We just had a huge holiday party. We're taking everybody to Mexico. We charge a premium price, but we live in a capitalistic country, brother. Mm-hmm. Nobody's fixing pricing. The fact that people pay because they see the value, and you get all these little Facebook trolls to go out there and go on, how could they charge that? Well, you still work for yourself. Out of your house, you have a nasty truck, and you're so proud of having a company that completely disappears when you stop working. You literally leave on vacation, the company fails. And you're so proud that you charge less than everybody. How do you sleep at night? How do you sleep at night? Knowing that you're not taking care of anybody, knowing you're paying your employees like crap, knowing that you'll never be able to show up for your kids in a bigger way because you're working 24/7. How do you sleep at night? You're mad about the prices I charge when I get very little 1-star reviews. We show up the same day with a smile, with a wrap truck. The trucks don't break down. They're all insured properly. I pay taxes. Everything's right. And the phone you have, the iPhone or the Droid, that you paid $1,500 for. Why do you buy a pair of Jordans for $500? People say I would never pay that price, but here they are with a Rolex watch and a brand new Beamer. They're so full of shit. I get so annoyed by the people that say, oh, how could you spend that kind of money? You go to the steakhouse that's bringing in 27% bottom line. Everywhere you go to Papa John's and you don't complain about the cost of pizza. You just belittle yourself enough when you look at the mirror to say, I'm not worth it. I'm pathetic. I can't charge a price because I am not a good service. We show up scrubby. We don't do training. We hire anybody that could fog a mirror. This gets me going because people don't value themselves if they charge less. If the only thing they compete on is price, then that's pathetic. That's very, very, this is not conducive to a good environment and a good culture for your people.
So good, man. It's almost like this martyr syndrome, though, in home services that the business needs to be small. The owner needs to work 100 hours a week and pay people like a shitty wage. I'm curious, though, man, let's say we go 2 decades in the future. Was this like we're kind of similar ages, man. Like our parents' generation, maybe they DIY'd and some of these guys went into trades and started competing on time and materials for $50 an hour. In 20 years from now, though, as we get older, will this like gap from what contractors are charging and what they should charge, will that be there? Or are the big A1s of the world eventually these guys are just going to get 10 grand for their phone number and get steamrolled? I'm curious, like 20 years down the line, what you see as it pertains to this underbid pricing model.
Oh, it's going to be the rise of the big companies that are better trained, investing more in their people. I mean, literally Amazon, Walmart, Google, the largest companies, there's already happening. PE companies are in real estate and dental offices, and they're big in home service now. Some markets are still untapped, but they're going to be found. So what's going to happen is the small guy's going to have a hard time competing because they don't get the same economies of scale. My CSRs could book 37 calls per day. You might not even have 37 calls coming in, so you can't get the economies of scale. You'll never be able to purchase. So how do you win? David and Goliath. David can move quicker. He can make quicker decisions. He could swivel faster. He could stop and ask a customer for 3 reviews instead of 1. He could put a yard sign out when it's a lot easier to do that when you're smaller. They could get involved in the community. They could show up to a football game and be handing out cards and passing out Gatorade. So there is an opportunity still, but I think the gap's going to get smaller of the opportunities. And I think it's going to be survival of the fittest. And the fittest are going to be the companies that provide for their people. They invest in training. They recruit smart. And how's it really fair? It's not fair to compete with me now. This might sound cocky, but I don't think anybody stands a chance, although I love my competitors to win. That's why I coach them. But very few people have the ability to compete with us.
Very curious, man. And then I want to talk about your book. However much you can touch on this is up to your discretion, but 10 years from now, what does the business look like and what's Tommy doing? Again, are you guys staying garage doors? I'm sure you can see the home service landscape, $600 billion industry, painters, pressure washers. Are you guys at some point going to start looking at the home services at large, or are you going to just stay dominating garage doors and potentially even go worldwide? I'm just curious, like 10 years, what do you see?
So I try not to make a 10-year plan. I try to, although I got my 70, when I turn 70, my North Star of what I've done the last 30 years, I look at A1 in the 5-year capacity. And we'll trade it again to another company and be working on an IPO. And I'll be rolling up a massive amount of companies. Hopefully the guys in Garage Door Freedom will have a great exit, 10x what they could do alone. But, I've got a lot of money that I took some chips off the table. So I invest in things that I know I can move the needle. When it becomes, 400 or 500 million of EBITDA, it's not as fun for me. I don't know Sarbanes-Oxley. I'm not the guy to bring us public. I'm not a front-facing CEO like that. So I'll probably be in the mix of growing things, but my plan is not to work the hours I've worked the last decade. It's going to be 3 to 4 hours a day, good decisions, hire very, very good people that are capable, that have been where I want to go, rinse and repeat. I mean, I'll never stop working, but I don't see myself, there's no reason, because once again, my principle is you can find somebody to do it less than you. At that point, you could hire great leaders making several $100,000 a year plus a badass bonus and have them do it for you. I'm going to continue these principles. And as it grows into multi-billions, I mean, look at Richard Branson. He owns 100 companies, works 3 hours a day. I'm not Richard Branson. I'm not Elon Musk, but success leaves clues. So follow the clues and just look at what they've done and look at how they live their lives. As they're enjoying the journey, they're living, they still love to grow things, but they're not letting it consume them. But it takes money to get to that point.
It's amazing. I'm seeing you too, man. Like, you're really doing a great job growing your personal brand quickly too. Do you see that fitting in your bigger vision too? Like, you networking with Dan Martell and Andy Frisella and building this guy came out of the home service space and now he's like in that club. Is that kind of part of your vision as well, where you see things?
Yeah, I think personal branding is a huge deal. It opens up doors, right? It allows me to network to bigger, better, smarter people, make the phone call to the right person. A lot of them have had experiences I haven't had. So I want to continue in the home service space for the next foreseeable future. But, these guys are all looking at that. Some of them are getting into roofing and coaching in solar. And they've all realized through COVID is these blue collar industries, there's a lot of freaking money. We were pretty solid during COVID. I mean, we were essential, right? Every movie theater shut down, every bowling alley, real estate dropped. We were killing it. So now everybody, all eyes on us. It's our time. And now it's opening up the door to a lot of opportunities. I want to be the guy you call when you're a great business and you say, look, I'm at 3 million of EBITDA. I want to get to 30. You got a good business. You're a hard worker. You got a good culture. I can put the money, time, and resources in to just compound that. And that makes sense for me, right? It's almost like one day I'll probably be in private equity, but it'll be my own private equity company that I'm kind of hand-holding through the process. You might be missing a great CFO. You might have a crappy HR team. You might not know how to hire right. You might not have a good deal with enterprise to get the vehicles when you need. And that's where I feel like I think there's very few companies I couldn't impact in a great way. I mean, I don't want to get into the $200 million EBITDA companies because they're a lot harder. There's a lot more going on there to unpack. I could unpack most companies in a week. They would take 2 months, and then I probably couldn't move the needle very much.
So, Tommy, do you think almost doing kind of what Alex Hormozi's doing with acquisition.com, like you have certain businesses hit a threshold of 2, 3, 4 million EBITDA, and then Tommy's group would look to invest and blow it up 10 times, 20 times, 50 times, and then sell it? Is that kind of what you're referring to? Something similar to that?
Yeah, I say Alex Hormozi's more like me, but I say I guess he did it with Gym Secrets and the Gym Consulting. He buys more of consulting groups. He's got a specific buy box, which is smart. My buy box is mostly home service and looking at certain KPIs. And with the AI technology that we're investing in, I think it's going to be harder and harder to keep up because we're double downing every year, every month, every week in technology. And eventually it's going to be very hard to compete because we've invested so much in a centralized system and the APIs and the webhooks and the AI. It's just like, how do you compete? Because taking white collar principles, applying to the blue collar industries, I've learned a lot from a lot of people. It's very rare I meet somebody that's got the hunger, the humility, and the growth mindset to compete. Because, once you get married and you have a bunch of kids and you just don't have the time. And I don't pride myself on that because I wish I had 3 kids running around, but I still got time. So it's going to be hard to compete when I could jump on a plane tomorrow and be there and not miss a whole lot.
100%. I want to be respectful of your time, man, but I do want to end with one last thing. I'm holding up a copy here of your book, Elevate. I've read through it. I got your copy in Nashville. I bet, Tommy, you'll like this. I got a second copy on my bookshelf right beside the Bible, man. We got the Bible, we got Elevate. So I want to hear, though, man, I like asking authors, why'd you write the book? I love always asking and hearing kind of the motivation. And I know we've touched on some things today, but I kind of want to hear like your heart behind why you wrote Elevate and what listeners can expect digging into this one.
Yeah, so I wrote the book, Home Service Millionaire. I had 12 co-authors that helped me write the book. And right after I got the bug to write, I kept a Google file and I started putting notes and shit would happen. And I put it in there and circumstances and things. And I came up with this epiphany as I sold the company last year, half of it. And throughout the process of these people care so much, they're my family. And they have dreams too. So my dreams got to be big enough that their dreams could fit inside. And it happens through merit, through performance pay. So the book is really riddled with things about caring more, having a dream so big and being the greatest visionary and putting their needs first, finding out their big why and applying that to what they could do at work. That way I never need to tell you, David, you need to do a better job. I'm going to put you on a performance improvement plan. I'm going to say, David, listen, you told me you wanted to take your dad on a fishing trip. You told me you wanted to renew your vows in Hawaii. You told me you wanted to buy a house in Maui, whatever. I got to wait for you to get there quicker. How bad do you want this? And then we could talk about what the training you're going to need to hit these goals quicker. As it should be a pleasant experience on a one-on-one of how we could win together rather than disciplinary action and performance improvement plans. So the book is about performance pay. Brian Davenport talks a lot about scorecards in the book. Al Levy was in there. Building a team, Jody Underhill. So I had 3 co-authors. And it's really about building a business where everybody wins. My vendors win. Because I ask my vendors, how do I help you win? What could I sell that's your highest profit margin? How can you train my guys to sell your highest profit margin things? My customers get to win. My internal customers get to win. The employees, I get to win. The competition wins because when we go into a market, everybody raises their prices. We all could win in business. Unlike sports where it's a win-lose, the game of business is infinite, hopefully, and we get to win, and everybody around us can still win. We're so taught this win and lose, and so we think, man, if this guy's doing good, I must be doing bad. That's not the way business works.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. And I think in home services, a lot of companies that do crack the code on finding success, oftentimes that success ends with the owner making, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year and taking off and traveling the world. But their team's kind of left holding the bag, making 50 to 70K a year. And I think it's very attractive what you're doing at A1, creating high income earners. You said you take everyone on a trip. Is it Mexico? You said that you guys are all going?
Yeah, there's 60 of us going. Like, we believe that not everybody, it's not an ESOP where everybody just gets a little chunk. It's the highest performers, but they know what they need to do that year to hit it. It's very subjective in goal setting. It's not, there's no, I think this is what you hit. You go on the trip. You knew about this in the beginning of the year. So I believe that the top performers in any category get an opportunity to partake in equity in these trips. Not to say we don't do great holiday parties and other things. I just jumped out of the sky with a bunch of guys that didn't hit pinnacle, but I think it's important to have bowling and do stuff with the team all the time. We go to the park, we do all kinds of stuff, but this whole concept of everybody gets to win, most owners do. And when it comes down to it, they say, I only care about my team, but when they get the money, none of it's shared. They lie to themselves. I've seen owners over and over and over say they put themselves behind the team. But yet when it comes to getting money, none of them do shit. They don't share. So they lie to themselves. They lie to everybody around them. When it comes down to it, the money comes in, boom, selfish. I mean, over and over and over. You think they go to church every Sunday. They're a good parent. They're faithful to their wife or husband. And then all of a sudden the money comes. They're like, these people, they do everything. They didn't get a red cent. Bullshit. And it happens over and over and over again.
Yeah,
everybody has great intentions till the money comes.
You want to see someone's value, look at their credit card statement and look at their calendar, right? So that's an interesting thing you picked up on. I guess last question, Tommy, is like, let's say the owners listen this far. Tommy's got a massive business. When you were little and you couldn't offer multiple six-figure salaries and trips to Mexico and all this cool shit you're doing now, what would you say back to younger Tommy to I guess my question, man, is it possible to get A-level talent when you're still small, like sub $1 million? Could you bring in a rock star, or just would you say you got to grow revenue to get a seat at the table?
Well, can you afford Bisquick from Costco and make your people pancakes? Can you take them bowling at $3 per game? Can you have a picnic and have a volleyball tournament or play bags? I mean, these things don't cost a lot of money. You could do things that barely cost anything, but it's time and investment into the team. So I would say you create the right culture, you get the all-stars that gives you enough money to hire and pay people more. The difference is if a guy is good and it's a commission-based or performance pay, a CSR that books 40 calls, the other guys are booking 18, that CSR booking 40 should make double the pay. So you don't need as many people. You just need A-plus players. When it's small, you need the A-plus players that can still make a lot of money, but you don't need a lot of them. So I would say, rather than having a bunch of mediocrity in your company, pay people a lot of money, but it's all a percentage. The way I craft these performance pay structures is I know I'm winning when they make a lot of money. So I can rejoice and say, this guy made $300,000 because I know I did really, really great. Don't make mistakes in your performance pay where you ever have to get like agitated when somebody makes a lot of money. You made more than I did. Great, because you earned us $1 million and grew the enterprise value of the company a lot. I see a lot of mistakes made when it comes to performance pay, but you should never get upset that somebody made a ton of money, especially if it's commissions. If your commission structure is set up correctly or your performance pay, then don't get upset when somebody makes a lot of money because they're doing the work of 10.
Do you think, man, keep saying last question, this is the last one, I promise. Do you think a company truly can be built with all A players, Tommy, or do you think inherently there can be like campers and climbers, right? The climbers always want to grow, buy the house, get the car. Can you have campers in your company that just say, Tommy, give me my 80 grand a year? Or do you think your culture will repel those people out the door?
Well, you got to have some in your company that's enormously when it continues to grow, but those A players are vital when it's smaller. What I would say is, the worst employee is a good employee. Bad employees get fired. Good employees take you straight up. Good employees just kind of skate by. They never get written up. They're just kind of floating. They're never like, I want to be number one, but I don't want to be last, is what they say. So they kind of hover. And I'd be very careful by maintaining just B players. Either figure out their why and motivate them to come up, or get them out quickly. It's not always possible. You might not need a warehouse guy that's like Johnny on the spot. Everything it says is perfect order. He just needs to unload the truck and make sure it gets loaded up into the inventory for the trucks. You don't need like some crazy badass in the warehouse. So you don't need this cleaning lady that could do 3 buildings in the time it takes 1. But in certain roles, you need a badass. Your CFO, your CMO, the culture, who's driving the culture. They need to be badasses. There's a few key players that you do not want the B squad.
Yeah. So you want a great employee, or you want a bad employee to show them out for most roles, and especially the higher level ones.
Yeah, the highest level is they're great at leaders, they're great at communication. And the one thing that Ken Goodrich told me is if you're A-plus players, your C-suite, your VP level, and they're not spending 15 hours on themselves trying to grow, whether that's podcasts, listening to books, networking, then they're not going to make it in your company, Tommy, because you're growing so fast that when you outgrow these people, you're going to need to replace them because they didn't keep up. You gave them a fair shot and tell them. You'll invest in them. You'll send them to seminars. You'll invest in podcasts. You'll buy them the books. So as long as you're upfront about it and communicate upfront and say, you need to grow with me, then you find yourself going, man, these guys are just not growing. You need to replace them. I'm sorry. They might be family. You could give them money. You can put them in a different spot on the bus, but still, you're not doing anybody a favor by keeping somebody that doesn't belong in the company. That's not a great leader that's going to grow as fast as you. You think you're loyal? Your loyalty will put you out of business before anything.
Wow. It's amazing, brother. Well, tell us, Tommy, phenomenal stuff, man. Very motivating. We've mentioned your book. I'm going to link up where everyone can get that. Your podcast is The Home Service Expert. Where else could people kind of see what you're up to, man, and join your journey?
Yeah, so the social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, official Tommy Mello. Tommy Mello without the W. And my Facebook group is Home Service Expert, same as the podcast. There's 10,000 people in there. We answer questions all the time. I mean, I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. You can go on LinkedIn, Tommy Mello, you can see. And I try to help out as many people because I was once a small guy. A lot of people paid it forward to help me. So if anybody needs to get a hold of me, we do shop tours once a month. I don't charge for them. We show them everything on how we hire our training center. They come to Phoenix. It's fun tour. It lasts a couple hours. And I'm an open book, man. I don't hold a lot in. I tell everybody what I'm doing, because telling people what you're going to do and then actually doing it are two different things. I tell a lot of people, they say I'm going to do it, but they never do. 1% actually apply this stuff. And I wish everybody did, but they say, oh yeah, they got all their notes. They're ready to go. They're like, oh God, I can't wait to get back. And then life slaps them in the face and they go right back into their own routine.
Yeah. It's amazing, Tommy. Well, thanks, brother, for blessing us with your time, man, and gold nuggets. We'll have everything linked up in our show notes that we can get more people around what you're doing and get them fired up to build a successful business, and also check out this sweet book, Elevate. So thank you so much for your time today, Tommy.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it.